I need something to root this story in reality. It's a very meandering path, and progress is not always linear. So messy, and I'm confusing myself, and I'm losing track of my ideas. Good morning. It is April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day, unless you're like me and you're a fool every day. It is Wednesday, which is usually my writing days, but I've been pretty distracted this morning. It's already 10 a.m. and I haven't really done a lot. I know in my last vlog I was like, my routine is everything. My routine's gonna get me through this. And then I just have not been sticking to my routine very well. And I'll tell you what happened. I got consumed by the new Resident Evil game. I don't even own the game. I don't have a system that can run the game. I was just watching playthroughs. But oh my god, did it just take over my entire psyche. My brain chemistry shifted. There was like a good week and a half where this was the only thing I was thinking about, and I was so locked in, and I just was like forgetting to do other shit because I just wanted to think about this game. I'll laugh about it, but like if anybody else experiences like hyperfixations or special interest things, that it's genuinely intrusive. Like it throws off my whole system, but I have it a bit under control now, so that's better. I wanted to try and once again get back in the saddle this week and try to reestablish a routine. My morning routine's been a little spotty. I was doing okay with it this week. I wasn't making a lot of progress, but I'm glad I'm at least building the habit again of making the time for it. But as far as the actual writing updates, the last vlog I was saying about how I was working on a sort of timeline for the events of my story and trying to figure out the order of events, but I didn't really get very far with that. So my last writing day, I was once again trying to start from the beginning, and I wanted to begin making an outline. Not like a formal, like super detailed, like complete outline, just very intentionally vague and quick and just bang, 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 just figure out what the key events are in the story, what order do things happen, and to show that there is a story here, because it's just been so intangible. Ideas are all over the place, and I haven't really been rooting this thing in reality, and I haven't seen it as a full story yet. Not that I don't think it's there, but it definitely, I lose sight of it a lot, I think, and I get stuck in the weeds, and then I can't decide where I need to focus. I wanted to approach it again from like the timeline point of view, but when I was doing that before, I was again getting too stuck in the details, and the details are obviously going to be important, but I thought I would try to zoom out a little further and just in as few words as possible try to bullet point each chapter, or at least each scene or section that I want to include, and even if I don't know exactly what happens, to at least write down, okay, this needs to be the result. My character needs to do this. My character needs to think this. So that was what I was working on my last writing day, and I was doing okay with it. I outlined what would functionally feel like Act 1, but then when I get into Act 2, that was where I started to hit my wall. There is one scene that I have had in mind since the beginning of thinking of this project that I had been thinking would happen later in the story, but once I started doing this outline, I realized that scene could happen a lot earlier than I thought it would. My hitch with that was there's certain relationship dynamics I want to develop between my protagonists, and initially with this scene idea, I thought it would happen later so that my characters would have those dynamics established. But if that scene is earlier, they're not gonna have those dynamics yet. But that's also not a huge deal. It would mostly just change like how they communicate in this scene. It wouldn't necessarily change what they do. And upon further reflection, I was thinking it might actually be better because there would be more conflict and tension, because this would be the first scene when they're beginning to learn to trust each other and see if they can work together to achieve this common goal. So I might stick with that as my opening for Act 2, but past that, I realized I don't have a lot of scene ideas now that I don't really know exactly what else needs to happen in detail. I wanted to spend my next writing session, just trying to generate scene ideas, getting back into brainstorming mode, getting back into brain dumping mode, and just writing everything down that I can think of, no matter how random, how contradictory, how seemingly insignificant, just anything I can think of I want to write down. I realized what would help me generate more ideas are basically 3 different elements, and the first one is, like I said, my characters are going to eventually have a certain type of relationship with each other, so I need to think of scenes that would help those relationships develop. What kind of things do they say to each other? What kind of actions do they take together? What do they learn about each other? The second thing is playing with the setting more and coming up with locations where a scene could happen. Most of the story is going to be within this fictional city, but there are so many places inside a single city that things can happen and that people might need to go to. If I want a scene in a park, what would my characters do there? Why would they need to go there? What would they find? What would they learn? How would they interact with each other? Or, like, I think everything's in the city, but maybe there are some scenes that take place outside of the city. I do have an idea for a location that I think would be really cool to have a scene in that would really play into the world building even more, because I love a narrative where the setting is functionally its own character, and not necessarily in like a literal Encarceron type of situation, but just in the depth of the culture and the society and the history and just how ingrained it is in the characters' lives, and just it's so intertwined and it's all building on everything to where if you change the setting, you would have a different story. I don't know if I have the ability to achieve that the way I would like to, but the one scene idea I have or the one location idea would really cement a very big part of the world building and like the lore of this city. This location would enhance that and it would make that lore even more relevant. So I would love to find a way to make that work, but obviously, as vague as I spoke about it, I honestly don't have more details to even share, even if I wanted to. But then the third thing to help me think of scene ideas, probably one of, if not the most important thing that I haven't been thinking of, is my secondary characters, my supporting cast. I have not been spending any time thinking of what these other characters are doing. I've been so focused on just my 3 protagonists. I haven't even been thinking about the antagonists very much. So I really need to take time and flesh out these supporting characters, because even if they're not the protagonists, they still have to have important roles to fill, and they have to influence the protagonist and influence the plot, and they're important too. So I need to spend time on those guys. Those are my prompts, I guess you could say, as to what I want to try and use to help me generate scene ideas to then further this very vague, rough, messy, non-committal outline that I've started. I was doing the outline in Milanote, and then when I thought of something, and I don't even remember what the idea was, but it brought me back into my Notion page for my story. I always have my Notion page open, but I realized how long it had been since I really looked at it and looked at the details, especially my character, like, profile pages. I was going, oh my god, like, it's been so long. None of this information, I forgot what my original ideas were, and I realized how much had changed since I last looked at these pages. So I got a little sidetracked cleaning that up and trying to rewrite the information that I had about them, which wasn't a waste of time, but it kind of distracted me from what my objective was, which was developing the loose outline. But like, it still ties in because I need to understand the characters to know what they could do and what they think and how they feel and what their actions are. So it all ties together, obviously, but I'm just trying to have an intentional focus on the events of the story. I'm very deliberately not getting into the details of things just to have this skeleton built. I know once I do go into the details, things are 100% going to change, but I really just feel like I need that starting point. I need that foundation. I need something to root this story in reality for me so I can know what I do need to fix and what I do need to change and develop and make this story feel real, and prove that there is a story here and it's not just some abstract concept and vibe and imaginary thing that doesn't have any real substance. That was a long-winded way of telling you that I'm just working on an outline. I've been distracted, so I thought I would hit record and see if that would help me be a little more accountable. It is a very rainy day. It's very cozy. I'm kind of enjoying it. Sometimes days like this really just suck me dry and I don't want to do anything, but I'm feeling the writing vibe. I'm feeling the urge to get something done. Even if I just go till noon, or lunchtime to see what I can get done by then, that would be good. Just trying to get my routine back in place. Let's move on to the next part where I hopefully try to get things done, or it'll just be a lot of B-roll of me sitting there not knowing what I'm doing. About an hour and I am struggling. The intent was to start generating scene ideas, and where I was starting was with one of the side characters. This character is a synthetic intelligence. They are a non-organic programmed individual, but they function very much like a person. And originally when I conceived of this character, I was just like, oh, just kind of almost negligible, just kind of on the side, a fun little like flavor text of like, here's just an example of how advanced technology is. But as I begin to flesh some things out, I'm realizing this SI can and probably should be way more central to things than I was originally thinking. I can see how this character, how this technology influences the motives of the antagonists. But the problem is the antagonists have taken certain actions, and this is a certain motive they have. But I can't quite yet make sense of how this motive justifies this action, if that makes sense. They wanted this, they did this, but how does that actually make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining that well. There's also part of the world building that I think needs to tie into that as well. There's part of the lore of this particular city, of this setting, that I believe I have an idea for how that could relate, but it's also very vague, and it's just I see the ghosts of connections. I know that there is something there, or there should be something there, but I just haven't quite solidified the idea yet. You know, that feeling of like it's on the tip of your tongue, but like I'm like I know it's there, I know it has to be there, but I just don't quite know how to realize that potential yet. Got some ideas, but like it's still what a mess. This is not a flattering angle, is it? But whatever. I will take my lunch break and then I will try to come back to this after. I always say that. I'm always like, oh, I'll just stop for lunch and then I'll continue, and then I never come back to what I'm doing after lunch. But I'm actually going to try today, even if it's just for like another hour or something. I really want to get something figured out. So I did the dishes, I had a sandwich, I broke a cup, and I learned that our sink is leaking. Big adventures today. I will deal with those problems later. Right now, I have a matcha and a dream to figure something out for this stupid story. I shouldn't talk about my children like that. I don't know if I'm going to continue trying to troubleshoot the little backstory thing I was just working on, or if I'm gonna try to go back into the present day outline, or if I want to do something totally different. I have no clear streamlined approach. It's truly, I just vibe it every single time I sit down to work on this thing. I don't think I've ever done the same approach twice. I don't know if I'm gonna move to my desk now. I was obviously sitting on my bed. I'm trying to switch seats throughout the day because I forgot to close my window, so I'm sorry if the birds and everything are super loud. I'm trying to switch seats more because I have ADHD, and the variation is helpful if I sit in one spot for the entire day. I notice a diminishing returns type of scenario, and I get very tense and I lose my focus and my motivation dwindles, and it's not working. So I'm trying to change how I do things so that I can find what does work. Okay, I'm gonna try to write now. I'm gonna try to write something. Ugh. I was trying to go back in my story's timeline into the backstory, and I was like, I have an idea to enhance the premise, to figure out where the main conflict actually starts from, and it happens in this particular location, and this specific thing happens, and then I was like, this is a Resident Evil ripoff. I'm so resi-brained. I'm not even coming up with my own ideas anymore. I'm sure there's a way for me to potentially convert it and add and expand on it to make it a little more original, but 100% that's where the idea came from. But it's fine. All art inspires other art, you know? I think I was getting somewhere. I stopped recording because the ball was starting to roll, and I was starting to make connections, and I didn't want to keep stopping to worry about camera angles, but I think I was beginning to piece things together. It's still a little muddy. The timeline is a little weird and might not quite work, but I'm learning, okay, there is a way to connect these things. This is possible to do. I was coming up with ideas. Are the ideas great? Probably not. Are there going to be some logical fallacies? Are there going to be some inconsistencies? Probably. I was starting to get into the technological side of things, and I simply don't know what I'm talking about in that area yet. Some of the ideas will require a good bit of research to make sure that they make sense, or to learn that they don't make sense and that I have to think of something else. It's not what I thought I would be thinking of today when I first started. The whole idea was I'm gonna work on an outline, and then immediately jumping into more backstory and world building than outline, which I guess is still part of the outlining, because if it's the backstory, like that leads into the main story, so it's kind of, I need to know the outline of that too. Still a lot of holes, still a lot of these notes are ending in question marks, but I'm encouraged when I can start problem solving. Even if my answers aren't good, at least I know I'm capable of coming up with answers. It's 20 after 2 now, which I don't usually work this late on writing. At least not when I'm drafting, or when I'm not drafting. Not when I'm not drafting. I don't know how much more I'll be able to push today. My brain's kind of melting a little bit. Not too bad, not too bad today. It's a very meandering path and progress is not always linear. Yeah, I guess I'll see where I want to pick up the next time I sit down to write. It would not be one of my vlogs if I did not have wet hair at some point. Today is Friday. I didn't do any recording yesterday. I didn't really do any writing yesterday because I'm also an artist and I have some art commissions that are in progress that I have been a little procrastinating on. So yesterday I was like, I should really try to make progress on those, and I kind of did, but honestly it was not a very valiant effort on my part. So I should do more of that today. But I also really want to work on my story. I really need to problem solve, and I really want to chip away at this. There's so much to figure out there, and I want to be in it, and I want to plow at it, as I want to work on it. I don't know. I'm gonna stop trying to invent sayings. Don't do that. I should prioritize the commissions and do that first, or at least put like more time into those, especially because it's Friday, so it's still a weekday, so, and that's like my work. I don't know why I'm quoting, I'm being paid to do it. And then over the weekend I don't usually worry about stuff like that, so I would be free to focus more on writing over the weekend, but I want to indulge myself a little bit, so I'm gonna try to do both today. The whole point of this vlog is I was like, I'm gonna work on the outline. That's my target for this vlog in particular, and I have not really worked on the outline. This morning when I was trying to work on it, actually it was partially yesterday and also this morning, something I was sort of realizing, or maybe just remembering, is I don't really have a lot I know about Aylex, who is my third main protagonist, main character. I have Gabriel, Sawyer, and Aylex. Those are my 3 protagonists as of now. That could change. Sawyer and Gabriel I've spent a lot more time on, and I have clearer ideas for their characterization and for their arcs, but Aylex is a little underdeveloped. He's a little vanilla right now, I'm afraid. Not as compelling as the other 2, so I should really spend some time. I just haven't spent enough time on him. He's a police detective, he's a man of integrity, and he just genuinely believes in combating injustice, and he wants to help people. He's very much a puppy man. I wanted to make him a character trope or archetype, I guess, that I love a lot. I have such a soft spot for characters who have just been through the ringer, who have just carried so much trauma and baggage. They are so emotionally and mentally burdened, but they still maintain this gentle, compassionate, empathetic part of their character. They still care about people, and they still have morals, and they, and they're very, what's the thing where it's like how much strength it took to become this gentle or something like that. I love that shit. I eat that up. I love me a sad puppy man, so that's kind of what I wanted to do with Aylex. I just don't know what his baggage is, and I was thinking for his arc it would be like he's very strong moral compass and everything, but through the missions that these characters are doing together, it's sort of like he would become a rule breaker to catch other rule breakers, and so that would be his conflict going against what he understands as like right. But I also hesitate with that because I'm like, I feel like that implies that he's a little too naive for someone in his position. I mean, naivety could be a character trait and it could be a flaw, so like it is not totally unbelievable, but it just feels too dissonant to like his employment position, to his experiences. I don't know that I want to write him that naively. I don't really know his backstory either. He is a cop, but like, why did he become a cop? Is it something that runs in his family? Is it maybe he saw or experienced some kind of crime or injustice that inspired, he's like, I want to protect people from experiencing that. I don't know. So I need to spend a little more time on him and make him a little more interesting. It's the kind of thing where I'm like, I care about him because that's my character and that's my baby, but like I don't really know him that well yet either. Maybe that's what I focus on today. I was also getting some ideas as I was falling asleep last night, which is the least convenient time to get creative ideas because I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm comfortable, and I get an idea and I'm like, I have to roll over and write it down because I will forget and then I'll be pissed. I do it in my phone. I have a note in my phone where I keep my bedtime thoughts for this story that I also always forget to look at. I was realizing there was something I was neglecting with Sawyer's character. I don't know, I mean, I guess this isn't super big spoilers, but like her parents are dead at the beginning of the story, and I was realizing, I was like, I wasn't really having any scenes in mind where she really experienced like the grief of that. That was my like falling asleep thought, as I was like, I need to like show her mourning her parents. I mean, it doesn't have to be like too much because people can grieve differently, so like maybe what I was envisioning is just a different form of her like dealing with that grief, but that is something I needed to pay more attention to, which is kind of funny that I didn't even really think about that. So anyway, that's where I am now, I suppose. I will have some breakfast and then I'm gonna try to work on my story for a little bit. And then if I get frustrated and or feel satisfied, then I'm gonna move on to my commissions and I might switch back and forth, or I don't know, we'll see. Let's what am I doing? I don't know. Let's go. Jesus. I just spent the last 2 hours watching YouTube. I don't know why my ADHD is so bad lately. Okay, so let's actually try to get something done here. I was just saying about not knowing enough about Aylex. My hair is just a time. Anyway, not knowing enough about Aylex, and so I was trying to spend some time on him, and then I keep jumping around because first I opened Aylex's page and was like, let me work on this, and then I immediately jumped instead to, I wanted to make a little table of scene locations and ideas for those locations, what scenes would happen in those locations. So I was doing a little bit of brainstorming with that, and then I jumped again to another character who is not a protagonist. She's related to the antagonists, but I wasn't really recognizing her as an antagonist. I was debating making her a protagonist and giving her a POV, but then I have 4 POV characters. Obviously that's not unheard of, but I don't imagine this book being big enough to justify that many perspectives. I mean, I don't have a word count estimate. I don't imagine it being maybe 70,000-80,000 words. My first draft's probably going to be a lot longer because I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't know how to shut the fuck up. So I'm probably going to overwrite in the very first draft, as well as just you're figuring things out in the first draft. So there's going to be a lot of just not superfluous, but world building and stuff that I won't keep in, but I'll learn what I'm talking about as I go. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean? Like, you figure things out as you're drafting. This isn't going to be included in the draft, but I needed to write that to teach myself that piece of the story. Anyway, going back to Verity, I was debating 1, giving her a POV, 2, making her the main antagonist. I don't know if that's too spoilery. I mean, it might not even be what I go with, so whatever. She's one of those characters that I was not respecting her role enough and her significance. She's a character I've been neglecting a lot, and I think that I could unlock some ideas if I spend a little more time on her as well, especially because she is outside of the group of 3 of the main characters, if I do give her a POV, that gives me more real estate to work with when it comes to scene ideas, because she's going to be in different locations. She's going to be talking to different people than my main 3. So it's one of those things where if I'm stuck, then I could just jump to her. Maybe I could give her POV, but just not enough, or not as much as the other 3. Obviously, the protagonist arcs and stuff are important, and that's going to be what drives the story, but these other characters play a role too, and I'm not looking at the full cast well enough. I was looking on Pinterest to find like characterization prompts. So yeah, still a lot of jumping around. That's been my entire process for this book so far. Okay, that was my check-in for now. So I'll talk to you in a bit.
Hey, baby. Oh my. What are you doing? You're so cute.
Hello, hello. It is Wednesday once again. I have not filmed anything since Friday because I have not done anything worth filming since Friday. Today is writing day. I'm trying to be consistent with Wednesdays until something happens that I need to change that. It is kind of funny though, because I'm at a point now. I haven't been unmotivated to work on the story, but I was definitely in kind of a slump for a while where it was on my mind, but it also just felt really inaccessible. I didn't have anything to sink my teeth into, and I couldn't focus on any one particular aspect to develop it. It was just like, I have snapshots in my mind, but I haven't been able to build on anything and flesh more things out. But lately, I've been feeling more immersed in it again, and I feel like I'm starting to get ideas again, which is good. I've kind of been fixated on a scene in particular that I do not know the specifics of. I don't know the context, I don't know the details, I don't know what is said, I don't know where in the timeline it falls, but I know what the mood is, and I know what the point of it should be, but that's it. That's where I've been living for a little while. I'm having a hard time doing other stuff because I'm like, I want to work on my story. I just want to think about it. That's what I want to spend time on, and it's frustrating to not be able to do that full time. I'm also having a hard time when I'm trying to work on this because, like, God, I want to be writing. Like, I miss just writing and building a draft and constructing the story. I yearn for that so badly. I want to be in that point so bad. And like, I'm allowed, you know what I mean? Like, I can do whatever I want. I'm not gonna get arrested if I start trying to draft this story. But I'm gun shy about it because every time I've tried to start a draft of a project without knowing where it was going, I get stuck and I can never get unstuck. I can never problem solve my way out of it. I can never zoom out enough to clear my perspective enough to find a solution. It just becomes too messy and it's too knotted and I can't unravel it, and it's just, I have to shelve it. I really don't want to do that with this project, so I'm trying to be very meticulous about planning as much as I can and trying to think of an outline before I start drafting. If nothing else, I need to know an ending before I start drafting, because I have to know that there is the possibility of an ending. You know, I need to know that there's a story here and it's a complete arc and it's a narrative. It's not just like, here's a vibe and here's a premise and here's a setting. So I'm trying to hold off on drafting until I have a clearer idea of a direction for this story. It's just frustrating because I'm like, at least when you're drafting, like, it's just a straightforward part of the process where I just have to open my laptop and I open the document and I just plunk out all of the words that I need to think of. Obviously, like, you're still putting thought into, am I structuring this well, and is there foreshadowing, and, you know, is everything making sense? Is everything flowing together? But as far as the mechanics of it, it's just, you know, it's pretty basic, you know, versus this planning and outlining and trying to figure out all of the pieces before I put them all together it's so sporadic. I'm kind of getting somewhere. I was thinking about Aylex as I was falling asleep last night, or rather not falling asleep last night. I was starting to get some ideas for his backstory, for his motive and, you know, his childhood and like, why is he in the position he's in now, and trying to contrast it with the other characters, because I realized all of my characters have a motive related to family, which was not intentional, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I was like, okay, if I go with that, I have to make sure everybody's family dynamic and like the nature of their incentive is different from each other. I don't want everybody to have the same story. So that's where I left off. I don't really know where I'm gonna continue from here for today. I'll probably just stare at my notes pages for a little while and then probably get distracted for a little bit and then rein it in and then try to focus again. That's just how it goes for me. So I'm starting out with a little bit of research. Basically, I have two types of technology that I am trying to develop for this story. That's what the story is around, is this technology, and it's also my biggest insecurity with this story because I'm worried I'm not going to be smart enough to teach myself what I need to understand about the real world basis for these things to make the speculative version make sense. On one hand, I'm like, there's probably more than I realize that I need to teach myself, and that's overwhelming, but then I also think alternatively, maybe it won't be as much as I think it is. Maybe there's more room for ambiguity than I'm currently thinking. What's the balance of making sure this technology makes sense and is believable without being too complicated and too overwhelming to not only write but also read? Like, maybe the reader doesn't want to know all of the super hyper specifics. I feel like I need to know it intimately though, so that I can be familiar with it and then I know how to simplify it for the sake of writing it, you know what I mean? It is a bit overwhelming. I'm not very good at narrowing my focus when it comes to research. I feel like it's the kind of thing where like I'm gonna have to spend more time on it than I think I do, but I keep putting it off, but eventually I'm gonna get to a point where it's like, okay, I literally cannot develop more of the plot if I don't understand this part of it. So that's where I'm at right now. I have many tabs open and I'm just bookmarking a bunch of stuff because I don't know that I have the mental capacity to absorb everything right now. I might jump to another part of the story once again and try to develop a few things there.
Oh, you're so bad.
I feel like not enough progress is being made for the amount of time that has been passing. I was thinking while I was eating lunch, in a previous vlog, I said I didn't want to use a journal for this notebook. I was gonna, if I do paper, I wanted to do it on loose leaf, and then I was gonna get a binder, and then I could sort the pages into different sections, and I could use tabs, and then it was more practical because you can add pages and remove pages and move stuff around without like tearing pages out. And I like the idea of that. I think that genuinely makes sense and seems practical, but I was thinking, you know, maybe part of what has been a barrier when I'm trying to do it on loose leaf is I'm trying to organize as I go, which sounds like it should be a good idea, but I think it's adding an extra layer of friction. I go to write something down and I'm like, oh, should I do that on a new page? And then does that go with this page? And which section do I group that with? Rather than just getting the ideas out as they're coming. I'm even doing that digitally. Like, I haven't been using much paper for this project. I've been doing almost everything digitally, which is honestly very strange for me. But I even, like, when I'm in Notion and stuff, like trying to figure, or even jumping between Notion and Milanote and Google Docs and Ellipsis and like which notes do I put where and how do I organize these? Obviously, I want to organize them, but if I'm just trying to go into that flow state of like brain dumping and just getting things out as they come, I think I need to give myself a space where I'm not worried about organizing it as I go and just get it out, and then I can organize it later. I can come back to it. I used to carry around a writing journal, never for a specific project. It was just whatever creative writing I was doing at any time. So it was usually multiple projects in one notebook, but I haven't been doing that for a while because, like I said, it's just been this project and I've been doing it almost all digitally. So what I'm gonna do is I do have a notebook stash that was meant for writing notebooks. I'm just gonna try to work in a notebook for a little while and see if that helps with the brainstorming and if that helps with the mental barriers that I think I keep encountering. And I was hesitating using one of these because I was like, oh, if I was going to get a journal for this project, it should be special just for this project. But then I was like, okay, that's stupid because now you're just going to procrastinate trying to use a journal because you're like, now I have to wait to get the right journal. Just use what you have. Stop being annoying. So I'm going to try not to be too precious about it. Every notebook I get, I'm always like, am I going to have thoughts that are worthy of this $4 notebook? It might take me a while to actually get some momentum going on paper because I get like the blank page syndrome or whatever you want to call that. So I'm gonna try to push through. I'm gonna let myself make a mess and then I can clean up the mess later. So I switched back to typing because my train of thought was starting to take off and I needed to try to keep up with it. So I went back to the computer pretty quickly. And what I was working on was once again visiting the backstory of everything that is setting up the premise of the main story. And I kind of forgot, or maybe even never realized, how many contradictions I have in mind, or I had an array of ideas and different versions of events, and I didn't realize that I never really decided on one version, and I was still juggling all of these different options. Basically, I have a lot of ideas that don't work together. I was starting to spiral a little bit where I was like, does this all just not work because none of this is logical and I can't justify a lot of what's happening? It's so messy and I'm confusing myself and I'm losing track of my ideas because it is like exposition, essentially. Like, what I'm thinking of doesn't happen in the story proper. This is all stuff that would be revealed through the story. So it's possible that I don't have to think, I have to think about it, but I might get more answers through discovery writing in the future. There's a lot that depends on this exposition and lore to make everything tie together very satisfactorily. And so I feel a little bit of pressure and a little bit of stress to figure out all of the backstory and all of the setup, and yeah, so I hope I'm not biting off more than I can chew with this project. Like, it's too early to be like, no, this doesn't work or this is beyond my ability, but it is very overwhelming and it's very intimidating, and I'm like, I'm not like discouraged, I'm just sobered. I think I'll just leave this vlog here. That's pretty much what I did today. I don't know that a lot of progress is made. There was a lot of circling back to things. I mean, I was figuring some stuff out for a couple of the characters, which was good. There's still just a lot of problem solving and a lot of logic I have to figure out. I don't think my answers are gonna come in order as much as I keep trying to put things in order, if that makes sense. I would love to be able to just imagine the timeline and be like, this, and this happens. But I'm like, no, this happens and then this happens, but I don't know how to connect these, but then this is over here. It's just how my brain works. And I feel like it's a trust the process thing where it's like, yeah, it's ugly, it's messy, it's not streamlined, and it is a process that can definitely be improved. I don't know, I'm trying to work with what I have mentally and just trying to be patient with it and trying not to put too much pressure on it that doesn't need to be there. The hardest part of all of this is just knowing what to focus on and when. I keep jumping around a lot. I jumped around a lot in this video with all of the stuff I was working on because there's just so many moving pieces and this is so big and complicated, and I haven't been able to connect all of the dots yet, and I haven't been able to clear a path to figure out the true narrative arc and to see the whole thing and to see the ending, and an ending that makes sense and fits the story and that I can be satisfied with. I don't know, that was a lot of rambling. I always ramble and I yap a lot in these videos, and I feel like these videos are too long for the amount of things that happen in them, but I like doing it, and I hope maybe they're at least cozy. Maybe, I don't know, because I can't shut up, it's like watching a podcast. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave this one here. Thanks for watching if you made it to the end. Thanks for indulging the extreme disarray of my thought process. I go through phases of like, I'm so excited about it, and then I'm like, oh my god, this is so overwhelming and I don't know if I can do it. But I feel very strongly about it. I think I said that before. I don't have enough reason to give up yet. It's not even an option in my mind right now. I want to believe I can do it. I really don't know what my next steps are. I don't know what the next vlog is going to look like. I never know what the next vlog is going to look like. Regardless, I will do my best to have some kind of update the next time I do a vlog. This is a really awkward outro. They're always awkward. I don't know how to do the outros. I hope to see you in the next one, or if not, then good luck in life. Keep me in your thoughts. Whatever. Okay, I'm gonna go now. Goodbye.